So, welcome everyone. It's good to see all of you. Now, today I would like to talk a little bit about your greatest power that is at your disposal right now to maneuver or your life or orient yourself. It's just power of your actions. It's not only the greatest power because everything depends on them, but it's particularly in the beginning of the path of the greatest importance. What you do every day in body, speech, and mind matters a great deal. How you direct your mind, how you direct your attention, it is actually a matter of choice. If you do have enough mindfulness, if you're aware enough, and you can see what you're doing to yourself, to those around you, and you can see who you're becoming at the same time. What you're doing right now, for example, as you're listening to this, you're doing things internally. You're directing your attention in very specific ways. It's very subtle. So most people don't realize that they are directing their attention in specific ways. Maybe in ways that make you feel bad, maybe in ways that make you feel good. So one of the first things that you can do is become sensitive to the way you're directing your thoughts and your attention, and then you can optimize that. You can make it better. You can make it work for you instead of against you. So you can take charge, because you actually are in charge. I do believe that true adulthood begins when you take responsibility for yourself fully. If that is not the case, usually for all of us, then what will be in charge are the various ancestral patterns that run through our mind and our body. So in other words, you can say that your parents are in charge, the books you've read are in charge, the people you associate with frequently are in charge, the circumstances are in charge, not you. So that is not adulthood. This is a form of being heavily dependent. And so what we want to do first, instead of just denying that dependency and saying, no, I'm quite awesome because I'm totally free and I can do whatever I want. First of all, you want to actually notice how dependent you are, because for most people, this is not the case. We don't acknowledge that. We don't want to acknowledge it. We'd rather want to feel independent, powerful, and strong. And this is not the case at all, because all it takes is for someone around you to push one of your buttons and off you go. It's enough. It's enough sometimes for someone to just look at you the wrong way and you have a bad day. That's not great freedom and independent mindset and strength. That's the opposite. If you can easily be triggered by what others say and others do and so forth, there is a whole lot of work to be done. And the work, after all, has the goal of being free, of having or discovering the part within yourself that is completely free from all of those circumstances, that is able to enjoy that type of freedom. In order to find that type of freedom, we have to learn to maneuver dependency properly. So we, for example, can choose who we hang out with. We can choose what we say or do during our day, if we do have enough mindfulness. If we don't have enough mindfulness, then of course, what will do the choice for you is your habits, your impulse. So that if one of your buttons is pushed, you simply react unconsciously. That is not powerful. So stepping into your power is realizing in that very moment what's going on within yourself. And then optimizing it, making it better. Let's take, for example, the way you talk to yourself. Could that be better? Could you optimize it? Could you make it in such a way that it benefits you more? Are there maybe some things that you say to yourself that create obstacles? Are you maybe deluding yourself? That's a difficult one to catch. We might be deluding ourselves. We might be assuming that we know some things that we really don't know. That can be a tricky one. For example, I know that God exists. There is a God, I know. When in reality you simply have faith. It's a good thing to have faith, but you don't know. So at least we need to be honest enough to admit that. And that's a difficult one to admit. I don't know. I believe that you can find God only in that not knowing rather than in knowing. The more clever you are, the less you see. In order to learn something, we have to admit that we don't know. Before we cannot admit that, we are unable to learn you're a so-called full cup. And then your job would be first to empty your cup, to stop knowing so much. And to start listening, because true knowledge comes from listening. It doesn't come from having your head full of information. That's easy, you know. Most of the knowledge of people is that kind of second-hand knowledge, like you learn at school. The teacher says A, B, C, and the children repeat A, B, C. That's not knowledge, that's an ability to repeat. It's not knowledge, but we confuse the ability to repeat with knowledge. Here I can say that by heart. Mom, I can do that alone. It means you're able to repeat something that has been shown to you. True knowledge arises from listening, not through repetition. And so we have to learn to listen. And in order to listen, you have to first admit that you don't know. And that is true humility. It's a gateway to the path. That's one of the reasons why people bow down before they enter the temple. They touch the ground with their heads to show humility, to show openness and receptivity, to be able to learn and to take in, to see like, no, I'm not the strong, big ego that I hope that I am, but I actually don't know. Please teach. Please, I'm open. My heart is wide open. These people learn fast. An open heart learns fast. A heart that knows a lot is very often totally closed. So true knowledge happens in that space of humility. It happens in that space of openness and listening, receptivity, in inner silence. Because in order to listen, you have to be silent. You have to be quiet. So back to the power of our actions, we can ask ourselves now, what kind of action does lead to that? And what kind of actions that I do every day is leading in the opposite direction? What is leading me away from silence and receptivity and listening to a state of being full of noise and full of information and full of stuff? Because the more you are filled by stuff, the more difficult it becomes to hear the truth, to see the truth. So we can direct our decision-making process of the day more into the direction of listening and silence, openness. Let's take, for example, a conversation you have with your friend. And instead of trying to say your piece, why not just listen? You might learn something. But if you say something, you can't learn anything. then you only repeat what's inside of you already. You're not learning. But if you listen, you can learn quite a lot. The more you listen, the more open your listening quality is, the more you can learn. The more you concentrate, the more you can learn. And so you might go away from the conversation not only giving your friend a decent chance to empty his or her heart and let go of some of their burden, but also being a bit more rich, knowing a bit more, understanding a bit more. That would be an example of directing your actions in a way that is beneficial for you. And not only does that give you a short-term benefit, it gives you a long-term benefit, because everybody loves being listened to. I guarantee you that. Don't you enjoy that if somebody listens to you honestly and openly with interest? Not in the hope that they might say their piece as fast as possible, to just interject. In the next time when you take a breath, they immediately take their chance. They can't wait. Sometimes I talk with people, I can see they're nervous. They can't wait to put their piece in.
Ask any teacher.
Yes. Yes. So it's very common. So that complete openness is a great gift. If you receive it, you will know it immediately. How nice is it if somebody is genuinely interested, asking you questions, wanting to understand you, gives you the chance to understand yourself better. It's like the beautiful work of a coach, isn't it? Like a life coach. In the traditional sense, what a coach does is they ask you questions and they listen to your answer. In that process, they help you to discover what you really mean, because you have to explain yourself. If you have to explain yourself, you have to understand yourself. But most people don't. They don't understand what they're doing, they don't understand themselves. So through the questioning process of a coach, you are able to learn to understand yourself a bit better. The coach does nothing other than listen and ask you questions, at least in a traditional sense, thereby helping you to find out what you really want and how you might get it, because you know best what you need to do. You all already know what you would need to do to transcend yourself. How comes that we're not doing it? Because the way we are wired in our minds and in our actions, in our responses, is very often quite mindless, quite without awareness. So we just act out our yesterdays repeatedly. We just keep doing the yesterdays. We just keep doing what we have been doing for so long. I know some people for a long time. They haven't changed so much. Still the old records are playing. Each time when you see them, they speak about the same kind of things. They complain about the same kind of things. Why do you do this to yourselves? We have to discover that within ourselves and aim for evolution, for growing, not for stagnancy, not for being the same every day. Safety is such a trap. Safety is the proper way to keep you from growing. The more safe you are, the less you grow. The more you are at the edge of chaos, the more fast you can grow. If you take the chance. You could also just complain, of course. That's also an option. Make your choice. And a good way to help myself with my own action making, with my own doing every day, is I ask myself who I want to be. It's a good question, you know, like with all the talk about presence and mindfulness and being here and now, it is equally as important to know, like, if I continue thinking in that way, who will I be in 5 years? Does that scare you? Does it scare you enough to do something about it? Now think the other way. If I did those things that I know I should be doing and that I know that are good for me, who would I be in 5 years? Does that motivate you? Let it motivate you. Let it pull you. So sometimes I'm getting angry or I'm getting a bit impatient or something like this. Ask myself, okay, here I am, angry, impatient. This is what I'm currently getting better at. Do I want that? Do I honestly want to dedicate my time and energy to get better at impatience and anger? What do you think do I answer to myself? Hell no. That's not what I want. I don't want to get better at that. Who am I becoming if I do this again and again? Who will I be in 5 years? Wow, it's scary. It's kind of a negative advertisement. I'm feeling, no, that's not who I want to be. I don't want to become a bitter person that is totally stuck in their ways, totally inflexible. But I want something else. And what does it take to get that? What would I have to do right now differently to get that? So let's say I'm in a negative state. I have a negative emotion. Maybe negative is kind of a word which is often misunderstood. Let's say an unskillful emotion, an emotion which leads to pain in the future and in the now. If I harbor that, I do anything to release it, to let it go, and here is my choice. That's my choice. I choose to let this feeling go. And instead, I work on that one. And I make that one stronger. And I choose to embody that. Now, for a beginner at this exercise, you will be heavily confronted with your victim mentality. Yeah, but I can't. It's so difficult. Don't listen to that voice. It's not true. It's just simply an old belief that is supposed to keep you in yesterday. You can change. You can choose different feelings, different actions, different thoughts. If you say to yourself, I can't, it's so difficult, you are right. Unfortunately, you are right. And you're also right if you say, yes, I can. I can change that type of thinking into a better one. And then you say, yeah, but it takes so much time. You know, what you really say is, I don't want to change. Now, isn't that nice? Then at least be honest enough and say exactly that. I don't want to make efforts. I don't want to do something good to myself. I don't want to change. Fair enough. Enjoy. Do your thing. But then you're also adult enough to take the consequences. You also take them, always. With every action, you also subscribe to the consequences. Every time. If you're okay with that, there's no problem. That's all right. But if you say, no, I'm not okay with that, I need to do something, then that's enough to think. I need to do something. Slowly, slowly, doing better actions, better thoughts, better feelings, better actions with the body. So essentially you could say the path is twofold. One, let go of negativity and practice what is positive. Practice what lifts you up and let go of what pulls you down. Every time you hurt, every time you're in pain, every time you're in emotional turmoil, You're in pain, acknowledge it, open up to it. Feel it fully, let it evaporate. It takes a bit of time, but it's well worth it. It's a chance. The higher your practice, the more you will be confronted. You'll be confronted hard. The better your practice, the more you'll be confronted with your ethics, with your practice of ethics. If your practice is really good, if your meditation turns out to be really powerful and your mind does get into some significant states of calmness, very often you will find yourself being heavily confronted with, in the short term, with what you're doing. Like having a negative thought immediately has a result. You immediately feel the pain. That's good. You get a natural compass. But if you're still quite dull, then that thing takes a while. You do something negative, 10 days later you get the result, and you don't even know why anymore. And you're like, oh God, why does this always happen to me? Well, it happens because of your past decisions. They've all led you there. So then we just don't know anymore what exactly leads to what. It's chaotic. But the more you are calm and the more you're in a listening mode, you can see directly the results of your actions, your thoughts, your feelings, everything. It will have a direct impact. Imagine you would punch someone in the face and you would feel the pain. Would you punch people in the face after that? Probably not. Imagine you're lying to someone and you feel the pain of betrayal instantly. Would you still lie to people? You couldn't. Because every single time that you do something, that you put something into this world, if you would feel the results of all that immediately, you'd have a huge respect of your actions. The problem is the delay. Sometimes you feel it after 10 minutes, sometimes after 10 days, sometimes after 10 years, sometimes after 10 lifetimes. And then we don't know anymore why. It just happens. And then we react in just the way that we've always been reacting to it. So nothing gets better. The wheel keeps spinning around. So your chance to get out of that wheel, that spinning wheel of repetition, is to honor your actions, to honor your thoughts, to honor your feelings, enough to change, to lift yourself up. This is what you can do. Nobody can lift you up. It's impossible. But you can lift yourself up. And if you do so, chances are that people around you are lifted as you ascend, quite naturally. You should develop quite a force around you. Okay, so that's all that comes to mind for today.